Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about two of the most important features of object-oriented programming. These are method overriding and method overloading. Now it's true that Python doesn't support method overloading by default. But in this video, I'm going to introduce you to one of the latest features with Python 3.8 that can be useful for implementing method overloading. I will also show you one of the Python packages that can be helpful for implementing method overloading. So stick to the end of this video to see how you can make it possible. Here I have got a couple of classes. Parent class with a constructor which accepts only one argument, name, and it also prints a message parent class constructor. It also has a simple method print details which prints a simple message method from parent class and another message with name of the person. This child class doesn't have a constructor defined in it, but it extends the parent class. It has nothing in the body of the class. Now if I create an instance of the child class, C equals child with name Angela, and I'm calling print details method on it. Let's execute the code and see what we get. You can see the exit sequence of methods being called here. When we call child class constructor, it doesn't have a constructor defined in this class. So it goes up in the class hierarchy, looks into the superclass if it has a constructor that takes one argument. In this case, our parent class has this constructor defined in it, so it calls this constructor. In case if it doesn't find the constructor in the parent class, it would go one step further. Here we haven't specified any superclass for our parent class, so by default it derives from the Python object class. If this constructor was not found in this parent class, it would have looked up into the object class. In our case, it finds this constructor in the class hierarchy, and that's why it prints parent class constructor message, and it also assigns the name attribute in this constructor. That's how methods are resolved when we call a method on an instance of any class. This is called method resolution order, or MRO. We will talk about a more complicated scenario of this in the next video. When we call this method print details, similar to our constructor init method, it's not defined in our child class, so it goes up to the parent class and checks if it has that method defined. And if it finds, compiler calls that method. It will print a message method from parent class. However, let's see what happens if I define the method with the same name in our child class. Dep print details. It takes self as argument, and inside the method body simply print a message method from child class. If I execute the code, it prints this message from the child class method. This time it found the method in the child class and it executes that method instead of looking up in the class hierarchy. This is called method overriding. We are overriding the behavior of this method from the parent class. If we wanted to use the parent class print details method along with child class print details method, then we can use super method that is used to invoke the functionalities of the superclass methods. If I write super.printDetails in our child class method, and if I execute the code, this time it first invokes the superclass method and then it comes back to the child class and executes this last statement. So with method overriding, child classes can have different implementation for the same method name as the parent class. In object-oriented programming languages like C# and Java, we also have another concept of method overloading. In that case, we can have method with the same name but different number of arguments or different data types of the argument, and it will invoke different methods depending on the passed arguments to the method. Python doesn't support that by default. If I define another method with name printDetails, and if I pass name as additional argument to this method, inside the method body, let's simply write yet another printDetails. And now if I execute the code, you can see that it's looking for name argument even though we have this method without any arguments in it. If I pass name argument, it simply executes this method. If I use IDE IntelliSense to see which methods our C object has, C dot, we can see that it has printDetails method only once, and if we check, it takes name as argument. When we define methods with the same name, only the latest defined method can be used. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there are tricks to implement method overloading in Python. One of them is we can use the args variable. We can implement method overloading features using args variable, and then it can take as many arguments as we want. Let me remove this new method, and in our first method, let's pass args variable, and inside the method body, we can check number of arguments passed and print different statements. Let me comment out this super method call in here, and also this message method from child class. Here I can write simple if block. If length of arguments is 0, then I print method with no arguments. And if length of args variable is 1, then I print method with 1 argument. Now we can call this method printDetails with 1 or 0 arguments, and it prints different messages. There are Python packages that can help you achieve method overloading. One of them is multiple dispatch. With this package, we get access to a decorator in which you can declare the data type for specific method implementation, and it will call different methods based on the type of the arguments you are passing. Python version 3.8 also introduced new decorator in typing module to implement method overloading. We will talk more about it when we look into this module in later videos. I will provide a documentation link for both of these methods if you are interested in looking into the details of each of these. In this video, we spoke about method overriding to change the behavior of the method in subclasses. We also experimented with how methods are resolved in Python from child class to parent classes, and we saw that Python doesn't support method overloading by default, although there are ways to achieve it. I hope this video was informative for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. In the next video, let's talk about multiple inheritance and multi-level inheritance in Python. I'll see you in the next video.